Hi, I'm Suzanne Siracuse. Welcome to season 3 of my podcast, focused on the future, keys to building a profitable, sustainable, and impactful business. I'm excited to be partnering with wealthmanagement.com on this. This series will focus on what firms need to embrace to ensure their growth and success for the future. And you'll hear from industry leaders and advisors on what is working for them. I have a great lineup of guests in store, and today I'm speaking with Cary Carbonaro. Cary is a fee-only financial advisor, author, speaker, and is the longest tenured CFP Board ambassador. Her practice focuses in on serving female clients, and she specializes in helping her clients through periods of transition, such as divorce, job loss, and death of a loved one. She also was the first woman elected to the NASDAQ Advisory Board. Well, welcome, Cary. That's quite the resume. Wonderful to see you as always. And thanks for being my guest today.
Thank you for having me.
It's great. And by the way, I love your headband. That's like, you need to brand that. That's fantastic. I need to get one of those for next year. Anyway, thanks again for being here. And I always like to start off the podcast with the same question because no one has the same answer. And that's, how did you end up working in the financial planning industry? Did you dream of becoming a financial advisor your whole life? How did you get here? What's your story?
No, because when I was young, there wasn't even financial advisors. That's how new this profession is. So but I do like to say I was born into financial planning. And the reason being is my dad was a banker. And so I grew up talking about money at the kitchen table, at the dining room table. We talked about things, I was his oldest daughter. And so we did a lot of bonding around money events, like going to foreclosure auctions and going to Straight Talk with the Dolans. And so I knew everything about financial literacy at a very young age. And I just thought everybody knew it. And I realized when I was in college that nobody knew anything. And I was the only one that knew anything about money, and that it could actually be a profession. And so when I first started out, I was in banking. I was on the banking side of the business. And I quickly realized two things. First, most advice that was given to people every day wasn't really advice. It was sales. And the second thing I realized was women were completely, or often completely, left out of the conversation. They were in the room, but nobody was talking to them. And it broke my heart and lit a fire. So when I discovered the CFP designation and true financial planning, not just picking investments or selling products, but helping people design a life that they want, it was like the water parted. And I was like, this is it, like heaven and earth. Like, this is what I was put on this earth to do. And I knew from that moment on, this is it. And so I built my financial planning practice from the ground up, one client at a time, all organic growth, and I never looked back.
Wow. It was destiny, it sounds like, and I can so identify. My dad and I also bonded over um, talking about money, which again, kind of unusual with the female child and the dad, and back in the day. And I think we're contemporaries, so you probably remember this too, the bank book, and
Yes.
going in, and I remember getting exactly. And I remember going, and anytime I would get like my first Holy Communion money, or your birthday money, and I loved like checking it off in the bank book, and then just learning that whole process, I think, was such an important piece to how I think about money today. So I love that your dad was really coaching you through that, and look where you are now, and helping so many, especially women, through getting a hold of their financial future. So I love that start and that story. And again, just destiny. You're meant to be doing this.
Thank you.
And you're very well known in our industry and have had a very successful practice serving this niche of working with women clients. So can you talk about why and how you developed out this niche, and how actually do your clients find you?
So, okay, let me answer first part first. So my niche came out of my experience as a woman in this business and a woman dealing with life. So I went through a divorce. I've had career transitions. I've had the classic bag lady fear, even though I knew the math and it was irrational. But I deeply understand how emotional money is for women and even successful ones, right? And so I look at myself as my own ideal client. I'm a female breadwinner. I'm a business owner. I'm an investor. I'm divorced. I'm remarried. Transitioning life, transitions with work and different life events. And I'm open to advice, which is really important when you're looking for a client because you want them to be receptive to what you're telling them. And you're always giving them advice in their best interest. So you want them to be able to take it. So anyway, I am my own best client, and that's how I look at it. And I mirror my clients. So now referrals, how do they come to me? How do they find me? Right. So women talk, right? We all talk. Women are, we talk about everything, and we certainly talk about when we like somebody or when we don't like somebody. And so women are my number one referrals because, they tell two friends and they tell two friends and so on and so on and so on. Remember that commercial from when we were younger?
I totally do.
And that's what I always say. That's what women are, right? And then my second way I get clients is through my media and speaking. So TV segments, articles, podcasts, keynotes, they all amplify the same message. Women are not a niche. They are half the population and control an ever-growing share of wealth and will control the majority of the share of wealth in this country within the next 4 years. The third way I get my clients is my books and my online presence. My first book, The Money Queen's Guide, and my second book, Women in Wealth, are calling cards for me, really. And people hear me, read me, see me. By the time they reach out, they always say, I feel like I already know you, which is just so fantastic.
Amazing. Amazing. You know what I think is so important, and we talk about it in our industry through other podcasts and on stage and in news articles and all of that is, and in social media, is the importance of authenticity. And so the fact that you built your business one client at a time, you didn't have help, you did it
Nope.
on your own. You did this because it was authentically you. You are that client. And I think
Right.
that's a really important part of why you've been so successful. And for the advisors that are listening to this podcast and they're trying to figure out, maybe they're newer in their career and they're trying to figure out what could be my niche, what could be my specialty, look internally. I had a guest, Michael Brady from Generosity Wealth, which I love that name. And he was adopted. And he now specializes in working with clients that have been adopted. And just like that's a super, niche. But
Right.
because you're also financial therapists, really. That's
Right.
what I always think
And
that's what the financial
teachers and
advisor is.
financial therapists, right? We're teachers
Yes.
and financial therapists. Teachers first.
Yes, that's true. That's true. But I think it's such a great lesson from your perspective on really putting yourself into the client's seat because you've been there. And I would
Exactly.
imagine that the women that you work with, and I know you work with couples as well, not just all women, but primarily women.
Right.
Um, do you bring up like, I've been in your seat, I've gone through divorce, I've
Oh,
gone through
yes.
job transition?
Oh,
Does
yes.
that make them kind of trust you more or look at
Yes,
you as, yeah,
absolutely. I am
yeah.
full disclosure always, and the great thing is I had such a horrible divorce, horrific, with
Oh,
so many years and lost so much money and paid so much in attorney's fees. And when I say that, I tell my clients, mine was worse than yours, and that makes them feel better. And I'm like, you're going to get, if I got out on the other side, you're going to get out on the other side. There's
right.
sunshine at the end of this rainbow, and I'm going to get
Yeah,
you there.
I
So,
love
and
it.
then the other thing I always say to my clients too, which is really important as an advisor, is clients don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, which of course is not my saying. It's Mrs. Roosevelt saying, Eleanor
Yes.
Roosevelt, but still, it's so perfect for this situation in what we deal with people's lives.
Yeah. Oh, that I couldn't agree more. So
Mm.
again, for those advisors that are listening, dig deep into who you are and bring that into your practice. And I think that, again, that's one of the reasons that you've been so successful, Cary. You've really been an advocate for women, both in this profession and also for women as investors. And you recently wrote a book, you alluded to it earlier, that really acts as a guide for financial advisors who are seeking to better serve the female investor population. That book's called Women in Wealth, a playbook to empower clients and unlock their fortune. So, what was the impetus for that book? Why did you decide to write it? And why now? Because it just came out. And what are like some of the key takeaways? So, part two, what are some of the key takeaways from the book that you'd like to highlight for some of the advisors that may be listening?
Sure. So the book came from frustration and hope. So two ends of the gamut, right? So frustration because I have been talking about the great wealth transfer for over a decade. An entire decade, we know this is coming and nobody is doing anything. The companies are not changing their client experience. They're not changing how they talk to women. They're not putting women first. They're maybe not even putting women in the room. So it's just still ignored. The stat is that, 80% of clients leave their financial advisor when the spouse dies. That has not changed for decades. So obviously it's not working, right? But then hope, because when you get it right, it can make the world of difference for the clients. If you communicate with them, if you design the client experience around them, when you lead with empathy and education, when you use emotional intelligence with women and you get to what's important to them, they will be loyal, lifelong clients for life. So that's the upside. And guess what? They're going to control all the money anyway. So these are the future of wealth management. And so if you've not worked with women clients, this will be your future because they're going to control at least 2/3 of the nation's wealth and growing. So that's why I think it's an exciting time because we're so close to this happening. 2030 is only 4 short years away. I wrote the book maybe when it was 6 years away, but by the time it come out, it's actually, I think it's perfect timing. So when advisors, the industry is ready to change, this book is literally keys to the kingdom to work with women. Every single thing laid out of the way to work with women. What I believe key takeaways for advisors are that women are not a niche. Women are 50% of the population and the majority of wealth. So treat them as core, not as other. Life events drive money decisions for women. Divorce, caregiving, career breaks, widowhood, entrepreneurship, menopause. If you don't understand her, you can't give good advice. And it's funny every time I talk about menopause, guys flip out, but it is seriously a big issue for women. And some women, there's women who go into perimenopause at age 30, and then you're in menopause for the rest of your life. So most of a woman's life, she's in perimenopause or menopause, and most men don't even want to talk about it. So anyway, some women don't want to talk about it either. So, but anyway, communication is everything. Plain language, education, active listening, no product pitches. She wants a partner, not a pitch. Your business will grow. Serving women isn't charity. It's a growth strategy. When you earn her trust, you often earn the entire family and multiple generations. So one of the things my book was originally called, the name of my book was Compel Her, Don't Sell Her.
I love that.
And that is what I want people to know about the book. Focus on her and her story and not your script.
I love it. That's so powerful and so important. And as a female client myself, I couldn't agree more. All of those, life transitions that you mentioned are so critical and they affect all of the decisions that you make. And so what give me an example of something where, because I've talked to a lot of male advisors that are like, I'm trying, but it's not working, or I have the primary client as the husband, and I can't get the woman to engage, the wife to engage.
Well,
Have you run
first,
in have that
yes.
have you
And
run
I
into that?
yes,
Yeah.
I get that question all the time. And every time I give a keynote on this, I get that question. And my answer is you have a separate meeting with the woman.
Do
And
you
guess
say, yeah, do you ask the husband first, like as the primary client, like, "Hey, listen, I noticed that your wife is not
you can
engaging
if
as
you
much."
want. If that's your
Okay.
if that's your relationship, sure, why not? Only because some men said I might feel uncomfortable asking to see the wife alone, like it's almost like I'm hitting on her, and I'm like, no, 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 no.
No.
Like, so it's just a matter of she will say things differently in the room when it's just her and not him and her. And she
Mhm.
will get to the things that are important to her, which you don't even know. Maybe it's the children. Maybe it's charity. Maybe it's not outliving her money. Whatever
Mhm.
maybe it's a second home. I don't know. Whatever is important to her, if you ask her and you listen to her and you engage her, and it's just you and her, it's going to be a totally different meeting than when it's just when it's the three of you guys and you're talking about performance and her eyes are glazing over.
Yeah. I think that is so, so important. So it's like if you do one thing, try and get a separate meeting if the woman or the wife is not seeming
Engaged.
engaging, or if
Mhm.
the husband or partner, primary client, is taking over every meeting,
Right.
then that I think that's such a great idea. Is there like a questionnaire or certain questions that you think are important for every advisor to ask the female client?
Yes.
Okay.
Believe it or not, I have them in my book. At the end
Oh,
of every
okay,
single
great. I
chapter,
didn't
I
even know
have,
this.
yes, at the end of every chapter, I have questions to ask yourself and questions to ask your female clients.
I love it. I love it. And have you gotten feedback from male advisors that have read your book
I
that
have.
actually have used your advice and have maybe had a breakthrough with their female clients or prospects?
Yes, I have one out of California who was literally waiting with bated breath for my book to come out because he knew that he needed it and he knew he wanted to focus on women and he knew he wanted to work with women and that was going to be his future of his
Mhm,
practice. And he had the book and he had it what highlighted. So
mhm.
pretty much almost every single page was highlighted. And then he took a separate whole entire book of notes. And he says, I think you need a workbook to go with the book. And I said, yes, I know I do need a workbook to go with the book.
It's a
And
great idea.
he wrote a beautiful, like this long review on how it's going to help him with his practice. And then I had another male come to me who teaches, and he says, I want to use this in my teaching with my advisors because there's no other source of this information. And so, anyway, I'm really excited that men are reading it because initially my main audience was women. And so it's an interesting book because it really is an industry book, so it's for all financial advisors, but it's also for women. And so
Mhm.
women who want to understand what a relationship with a financial advisor looks like and also questions to ask themselves and their advisors. So it's also a resource for them as well, but I originally wrote it for male advisors and
Right.
women have been my primary audience.
Okay. Well, so I think that's great, but we need to change that because I talk
Mhm.
to so many male advisors that genuinely want to learn how to best serve female clients and don't know where to start or have tried
Right.
something and it didn't work, it wasn't successful. So we have to make sure that those that are listening that really want to serve female clients get this book. We'll have that as a link as one of the resources for this podcast. So that's fantastic, and thanks for sharing some of that feedback too. It definitely works. Um, so shifting gears a little bit, you've done something what I may call unique, that would give most advisors a heart attack, and that's you've transitioned your practice 4 times in the past 5 years, and that was due to a number of factors, well, many out of your control. So can you talk about this process and how did it affect your business and how did it affect your clients?
Yes. Most advisors' worst nightmare is exactly what happened to me. Multiple firm changes in a short amount of time, mergers, acquisitions, shift strategies. Some of it was my choice. Some of it happened to me. But what I refused to compromise on was the client experience. And so here's how I navigated it. And let me tell you, it was not easy. But radical transparency with my clients. The minute I knew a change was coming and I was allowed to talk about it, they knew. No spin, no hiding. I explained the why and how it would affect them, what would change, what wouldn't change, namely our me, my number two, our planning philosophy, and our custodian all remain the same.
Mm-hmm.
Client first decision making. Every move I made, I said, will this ultimately allow me to serve them better? More independence, better technology, stronger planning platform, better culture. If the answer wasn't yes, I didn't move. Flawless execution on the details. Transfers are painful. My number two is an incredible technician. And so he built checklists, we both over communicated, handheld our clients, personally called every single one of them before forms arrived. This was not easy. Owning the disruption is really important because instead of pretending it was nothing, we acknowledged this is a lot and this is why we're doing it. And here's for the long term. And this is what is changing and this is what's not changing. And there was a lot of sleepless nights for sure. But my clients trust me, not the logo on the statement. And now I'm at a firm that values me and I'm in the right spot right now. And so Rich is who's my number two. He says it's not normal and I have a little bit of a cult following, which may or may not be the case. But what I would tell you is a lesson for advisors. Your business model may change, platforms may change, but if your relationship equity is strong with your clients, your practice is far more resilient than you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And any firm that doesn't understand that is making a big mistake.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I think that I love that radical transparency. I think that's important. I know like when I'm doing these podcasts and I talk to advisors and they're talking about how they, work with their clients, I'm like, I'm a client, right? Like I've had the same advisor for almost over 20 years. And, I wouldn't care which firm she was at. Like
Mm-hmm.
she would be the person I would follow her. And
Right.
so I think that again becomes like, how do you gain that trust? How do you, explain exactly what's going on and putting the client first is always going to be something that is going to get a cult following. So,
Right. And by the way, we didn't lose any clients.
wow. So
Yeah.
with all of that different
Craziness.
client
Yes.
names and all of that stuff,
Yes. The only
obviously.
thing they were mad at me about was the million emails because they kept emailing me to wrong emails.
Yes, well, if that's the worst thing that can happen, that's great. So basically, your advice then is, make sure that you don't stay somewhere where you don't want to be or you don't think is in the best interest in your clients, and don't worry that your clients won't follow you.
Yeah. And also, I think as women, we are so intuitive. We know, we trust your gut, trust your inner
Mhm.
self, trust your inner voice, and just go where you feel respected and supported.
Yeah, agreed. I love that. Um, so as I mentioned, and you've mentioned, one of the ways that you've grown your practice is you've done a great job with getting in the media, right? So you're considered a media darling. I can say that because I'm a recovering media executive, meaning that the media love to source you and talk to you and feature you. You've been on the Today Show, CNBC, Fox and Friends, quoted in the Wall Street Journal, Barron's, wealthmanagement.com, Investment News, and so many others. And you're also asked to speak at so many leading industry conferences. So how did you do that, right? How do you carve out that relationship with the media? How do you get the attention of the media and the conference organizers? I get this question a lot, by the way. So what's your secret? What would you advise those listening to do?
Sure, I'm happy to share, although I don't think of myself as a media darling. I think that's funny, but here's a few ingredients that I will share, and I'll share anything that anybody has any questions on. First of all, you have to have something to say. That's number one.
Yep.
I'm a financial advisor is not a media hook at all. I'm a CFP who specializes in women in wealth, and I can tell you exactly why women are leaving their advisors. That's a hook. I
Yeah.
get very clear on my lane, women in wealth and the great wealth transfer, and I stay in it and I never move from my lane. So that's the first thing. Second thing is say yes early and often. My first appearances were not glamorous, local TV, small podcasts, niche publications, but I treated them like they were the Today Show. I showed up prepared, on time, easy to work with. Producers talk to each other. I make their job easy, and I even write my own segments. So
Wow.
I'm a producer's dream, right? And then the other thing is make their jobs easier. I respond quickly. I speak in sound bites. I don't pitch products. I give them stories, analogies, real world examples. That's why they call back. And then you have to leverage every experience. Like if I'm on Fox and Friends or Wall Street Journal, my team shares it, my clients see it, conference organizers see it. One good segment leads to the next keynote because they just build on each other, right? And then you have to deliver on stage too. You
Yeah.
don't get invited back because you have a great bio. You get invited back because your session is highly rated. I just
Hmm.
did a keynote at the CFP board for example, I got a 97% satisfaction rating.
Wow.
That matters to organizers. It's really important. And so the secret is pretty simple: long-term consistency, clear niche, genuine desire to educate, not self-promote. When your mission is bigger than your ego, people feel that, and that's why you get invited back.
What great advice. We need to bottle that and do like a column on that, Carrie, because I think that's so important. And you brushed over it, but again, as a recovering media person, I'll say to you, getting back to if there's a request that comes into your email, whether it's from an industry publication, a Wall Street Journal, whoever, you need to get back to the reporter ASAP.
Yes.
You can't spend hours going through compliance or contemplating whether or not you want to do it or, like just not checking your email. They're on deadlines and they want to know, again, going back to making their job easy. They don't have time to wait around. They'll go on to the next name. There's 50 million other people that want
Right.
to speak to them.
Right.
So I think that's another really, really important thing. Understand their deadlines, right? So, but
Yes.
you gave perfect advice. And for those that really want to get into speaking and you haven't done that, as someone that really struggled with speaking early in my career, the best advice someone gave me was practice, 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 practice a million
Mhm.
times over practice, and just accept everything that's offered to you. And know that you're not going to be great in the beginning, but that's the only way you get better is through practice. And
Exactly.
I
It's
just love,
interesting. I
yeah,
no, go ahead.
I love what you said. I think I can identify with it as well.
It's so I just did Fox and Friends a couple of weeks ago, and it was a big one because I was representing not only myself, but I was representing the CFP board and 108,000 CFPs and all women. So I
Wow.
felt the weight of the world on my shoulders, and I've never practiced as much as I did for that interview. I actually stayed up all night long practicing. I didn't even
Mhm.
sleep because I couldn't because I was so excited for it, and then it was perfect. It was one of my most favorite interviews ever.
Oh,
And
awesome. That's
all
great.
practice, practice, practice. Exactly what you just said.
Yeah, and sometimes, you think, "Oh, I know this in my sleep," but
Hmm.
you really do for some of those, not for everything, but some of those big engagements. Make sure you practice, be really hone in on your niche. You're right. I'm a financial advisor that can talk about retirement planning, yawn, right? Like they're
Right.
not gonna, you need something way more specific. And And I also would say sometimes contrarian to what others are saying. If you're continuously regurgitating the same information, then, again, what makes you special?
Right.
So I love
Exactly.
that. And you really are a media darling. I think I'm talking to a lot of the media all the time, and they love referencing you and sourcing you.
Thank
So,
you.
this has been fantastic. You've given such great advice. We're on to our last question, which is always the same. And that's with the title and the theme of the podcast focused on the future, keys to building a profitable, sustainable, and impactful business in mind. What is your last line, Cary? What's your key takeaway? Do you want to leave today with our audience?
Sure. If you want a business that's still growing and thriving 10, 20 years from now, build it around the people that have been underestimated the longest, women. Design your practice to truly listen, educate, empower. Align your profits with your passion. And don't remember this one thing: lead with her, not your pitch. Educate, don't intimidate. Connect with her and her values. Earn trust instead of forcing urgency. Invite, don't choose. And if a woman feels all these things understood and empowered, it will be her choice to work with you.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. I love that. Educate, don't intimidate. Because I do think um, sometimes financial terms and can be intimidating for people that aren't playing in this space every day. I think that's
It's
a
I think
amazing.
I think in general our industry wants to use the jargon terms because they know them and it makes them sound smart, but it's totally off-putting to women. It's just intimidating. They already don't really like the financial service industry. We have a very negative rap to women anyway, but we
Mhm.
have the most, if we get it right, we have the most potential for success.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Well, that was a fantastic last line. Cary, again, thank you so much for being my guest today and for sharing your recommendations on how to best serve female clients, how to grow your business organically, and what it takes to become a trusted source for the media. I'm Suzanne Siracuse. Thanks for listening. And I hope this episode leaves you even more excited to be focused on the future.